I'm Jeremy Richards, and here are 5 things I wish I knew earlier about courage and creativity. 1. There's no such thing as an inner critic. Yes, we each have an inner voice, and it's often critical, but I no longer call this voice the inner critic because calling this part of yourself a critic adds too much authority, and attacking it as an inner enemy is also destructive. I call this part of myself an inner guard because the guard can be both your protector and your jailer. You need to understand what this inner guard fears and what it's trying to protect you from. Then come to terms with a part of you that can move through that fear in a more courageous way. 2. Creativity isn't a bank. Once I was backstage before a big improv show, and when someone made a joke, I said, "Hey, save it for the stage." Our artistic director at the time, Randy Dixon, turned to me and said, "What do you mean, save it for the stage? Creativity isn't a bank, it's a muscle." That changed the way I think about and practice creativity. At times, your creative source might need rest and revitalization, but it's not a limited resource. The more you create, the stronger that creative force gets. 3. Mindfulness isn't perfect. Saying that you can't meditate because you slip in and out of focus is like saying you can't lift weights because you keep putting them down. That activity, the flitting away and returning to the moment, represents your reps in mindfulness practice. That is how you fortify attention and presence, by recognizing when you're lost, always returning. 4. The answer to exhaustion isn't always rest. One evening, over a bottle of wine and a view of Puget Sound, the poet David White turned to his friend David Steindl Rast and said, "Speak to me of exhaustion." After a moment of reflection, Steindl Rast said, "David, sometimes the answer to exhaustion is not rest. Sometimes the answer to exhaustion is wholeheartedness." Granted, my family also lives by the quote from Tom Parker: "If you don't know what you want, it's probably sleep." But when rest isn't the issue, I often ask myself, am I truly exhausted or just half hearted? What would it take to be wholehearted in this moment? And 5, these mountains that you are carrying, you are only supposed to climb. That's a quote from the poet Najwa Zebian. Related to wholeheartedness, I often think about the mountains I've climbed but still carry. Can you imagine giving up the weight of a mountain that's been with you for half a lifetime? Can you imagine the lightness, the relief, the revelation of what you buried all this time? Setting down the mountain, or slowly letting it demolish, is both painful and liberating. There are always more mountains to climb, but you learn to take them one by one.